The villain, the antihero, the bad guy. There are many names to describe our sometimes charismatic, sometimes brooding, sometimes nefarious characters from our favorite movies and TV shows. The one consistent thing is that we can't take our eyes away from them. As a child, I remember rooting for Tom to catch Jerry, or for Zuko to capture Aang, or for Light to succeed in his plan of world domination. And as I got older, I was surprised how many people felt the same way. There's a reason why shows like You or Dexter are so popular, or why Joker grossed over $1 billion. There's an entire subreddit titled Thanos Did Nothing Wrong, which has over 600,000 followers. In this video, we'll explore the reasons, both psychological and philosophical, for why we find ourselves secretly, or not so secretly, hoping these characters win, and breaking down specific cases from these movies and shows. Without further ado, this is why we root for the bad guys. One of the major reasons behind it is as simple as our love for complex characters. Many times, the hero or the protagonist is fairly one note and are defined by a single trait or motivation. Superman wants to protect the people of Earth, Luke Skywalker wants to restore balance to the Force, and Katniss Everdeen just wants to survive. In contrast, Darth Vader is torn between the love he has for his son and his loyalty to the Empire, or Magneto, who has experienced the Holocaust and now wants to ensure the safety of mutant kind, even if that means the destruction of humanity. These morally gray motivations of complex villains and anti-heroes drive a desire in the human mind to better understand their beliefs and point of view. This is known as theory of mind. Another reason behind our interest in these characters is what Carl Jung coined as shadow sides. This, meaning the aspects of someone's personality that are repressed or unconscious, and contain thoughts and feelings that are socially unacceptable or inappropriate. In theory, we could be attracted to these characters because they can do what we can't even think about doing in real life. They act on impulse and desires that we aren't allowed to, and we live out these fantasies through them. The last reason I'd give would be a culture shift, as many of the characters of our parents' generation were these idealized depictions that weren't a reflection of real life, whereas now it is a lot more common to have these fallible and flawed characters on screen. This is in conjunction with the rise of the internet and social media, where many of the most famous people in the world have their scandals and unvirtuous affairs broadcasted to us all, which wasn't an everyday thing decades ago. We are more aware of the issues of society than ever before, and this has led to a growing distrust of authority, which I believe is another contributing factor to our rooting interests. Now I'd like to talk about some examples of villains who we root for, and what about them makes us do so. A villain so well liked that his fans wanted him to take the mantle of Black Panther, Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger gave us plenty of reasons to hope he would win. He has an underdog story in which he grew up in poverty and racial oppression, and witnessed his father's death by the very people he would attempt to overthrow. His ultimate goal of using Wakanda's resources to empower Black people and conquer the world is rooted in his own experience and knowledge of racism, colonialism, and prejudice. Killmonger makes an immediate impression on the audience, and is played with the utmost level of charisma, charm, and vengefulness that makes a character like him so compelling and hard to root against, even when he wants to take his plan to the extreme. For some, the idea of rooting for a sociopath, stalker, and serial killer might seem confusing, but for fans of the mega-popular Netflix series You, it all makes too much sense. The story of You is told from the perspective of Joe, and as such, we hear his thoughts and know his feelings, which can lead to viewers growing a connection with him despite his evil doings. Some of Joe's actions are portrayed as morally gray, such as when he commits these crimes in order to protect someone, which can make viewers sympathize with him. For some, there might even be some projection going on, as Joe fulfills his desires mostly uninhibited, and so far, without consequence to himself. Focusing specifically on the Arthur Fleck version of the character, it's easy to see why many audience members empathize and feel sympathy for the Joker. Played brilliantly by Joaquin Phoenix, the film spends much of its time setting up why Arthur becomes the titular villain. He is a man that has been abused his whole life, neglected by society, and suffers from a number of mental illnesses. His struggles to receive the proper help due to the lack of means and support are something that many viewers can relate to, and as such, we find ourselves understanding why his transformation from Arthur to Joker occurred, even with the heinous crimes he committed. As mentioned earlier, Joker is the perfect example of a character that our shadow sides are attracted to, as his war against a cruel and unjust society is one that many people have pondered but can never put to action. While we spend the movie hoping Tom Hanks makes it back to safety, it's the Somali pirate Muse that steals the show. A common theme you may be noticing amongst these characters is coming from a disadvantaged background, and not many have it harder than our antagonist in this film. Struggling to make any sort of living in a country that has been ravaged by poverty, corruption, and violence, Muse has committed to the life of hijacking ships and hostages in hopes of a big payout. The rebellious idea of challenging the US Navy as a small, undermanned, and underfed group of individuals gives the pirate crew underdog status. Muse in particular carries a cunning wit that endears the audience to him, and when he says he is the captain now, you believe him. He expresses dreams of a better life and wants to protect his men, while also showing moments of concern for Captain Phillips. These elements make it all the more tragic during the film's anxiety-driven ending. It's no secret that society has developed a fetish for crime, so much so that true crime content is enjoyed by half of Americans. It's worth noting that at the end of the day, entertainment is simply that, just entertainment, and the vast majority of viewers who enjoy or are intrigued by the bad guys aren't bad people themselves, and aren't more likely to commit acts of crime or mischief. If anything, it's been proven that video games, movies, and TV shows give people an outlet for frustration and fulfillment that makes people less likely to do the things that these characters do. With that, I want to thank you for watching, and if you enjoy my content so far, feel free to like and subscribe. Have a great day.